Procrastination. Procrastination. This is a big word among students nowadays. Procrastination. You have been sitting at your desk table, staring at a blank document for over 3 hours, haven't you? The assignment is opened and the deadline is coming up. Your mind is busy and your hands won't move. It's not that you don't care, is it? It's not that you are lazy. It's simply that your brain is protecting you. Protecting you from what? It's holding you from doing the work. Today we are going to be looking at or breaking down the emotional trap behind procrastination. The goal is to help you dismantle it for good and to help you to start doing your work, to start breaking your work one step at a time. This is Life Wisdom with Dr. T, a place where wisdom meets growth and becoming begins. We are going to be breaking down the reasons why you procrastinate, and we will provide you solutions on what to do when so as not to procrastinate. We're going to begin by looking at the hidden roots of avoidance. Why do we even avoid doing certain things? Here's the truth most people never tell you. Procrastination is not a time management problem. It's an emotional regulation problem. Your brain is wired for survival and not for success. Just think about that. So when you procrastinate, don't think it's because you don't know how to manage your time. It's simply an emotional regulation problem. When you face a task that feels overwhelming, like writing a paper, maybe essay writing, studying for exams, or applying for internship, your brain doesn't see opportunity. What it sees is risk of failure. Your brain sees instead risk of embarrassment, and it sees things like risk of not being good enough. However, and your brain would ask one question: how do I feel right now? And if the answer is anxious or insecure or pressured, it chooses immediate relief. You don't want to find yourself in that situation. And the immediate relief that your brain would choose will be to scroll through maybe the internet, to get some snack, to maybe watch a little bit of TV or go on your phone, go to social media, cleaning or arranging things. Maybe you would tell yourself, let me just go to TikTok for 1 or 2 videos. Your brain would prioritize moods, repair now, over rewards later. Not because you're weak, but because your brain hates discomfort. And so what you're really avoiding at this point is you are avoiding the fear of not doing it perfectly. You are avoiding the fear of proving your doubt right. And you are avoiding the fear that effort might not equal success. And that fear creates emotional friction. And what happens is your mind would say something like, let me protect myself, or I'll do it later. And so it delays. Avoidance is an emotional armor. We avoid because we are trying to look for protection. So here's the cognitive trap that we build when we do that. This leads us to the following situation. The first one is we try to seek perfectionism. And perfectionism whispers in your ears, if it's not excellent, don't start. Because of course you want to be perfect. You want to do it the best way possible. And so the standards becomes impossible. And starting feels dangerous because you will never feel ready. because you feel like you want to be very ready before you start. And I tell you, that's a big mistake. And I will tell you why later on. If you don't try, you can't fail. If you don't try, you can't fail. So you also can't grow. So it's very important to start. Start and don't try to make it perfect. Just start. The second point is the planning fallacy, which means you tell yourself something like, oh, I'll do it later, or I'll plan to do it later. I will plan to put it at a certain time. When you do that, you underestimate how long it will take, and then panic will catch up with you. And now the task will feel very heavy and more urgent and even more stressful. So what do you do at this type of situation? It is very important that you just start doing the work slowly, bit by bit. There's another thing that causes students to procrastinate, the fear of failure. This is very common. Sometimes procrastination protects your self-esteem. And because if you don't give your full effort, you can blame the lack of time for failing, because it's always good to blame someone else, right? Or something else. So if you would say things like, if I had started earlier, I would have done better. That's just a shield, but it keeps you stuck because the work is still not done, and this work needs to be done. So how to dismantle the cycle of avoidance? You don't fight procrastination with pressure. Never you try to pressure yourself. You fight it with psychology. It begins with, first, make it absolutely small. Write down the essay. For example, if you have an essay assignment that needs to be done, write down the essay, open the document and write one sentence or maybe a paragraph. Or tell yourself, maybe today I'll work on my introduction only. Don't try to elaborate. Your introduction, you know what you're going to include in there. In my introduction, I'm going to try to frame my topic. I'm going to have a topic sentence or a hook. I'm going to include some background information. I'll frame my thesis. What do I want to discuss in this essay? So that my introduction will be ready and I can come back later and develop the rest of the essay. Don't, for example, open the document and write that paragraph. Also, don't try to study a whole chapter. Maybe you can read one page, which is enough. Try to read one page, take down notes on the page that you can read later on. And then the next time you come back, read another page, and you do the same until you finish the whole chapter. You will notice that your anxiety will shrink when the task shrink. Your brain will relax when the stakes feel low, and tiny actions bypass fear, and it would allow you to complete the task. So the first step is make small steps. The second step to overcome procrastination is to use implementation intentions. What do I mean? Instead of saying something like, I'll study later, be more specific. Say at 6 p.m. at my desk, I will study for 20 minutes. This is not only specific, it is also time specific. You have said 6 p.m. at your desk, you will study for 20 minutes. So this is specific time, specific place. Pre-deciding removes any act of negotiation because you have already made the plans to do so. The third step would be to practice self-compassion. Love yourself. Shame fuels procrastination. So it's very important that you love yourself. When you think, I am behind, or I am unable to do this, or it's too hard, you feel even worse and you want to avoid more. So I encourage you to try saying things like, I struggled in finishing this essay. I'm going to restart now. Or compassion reduces your emotional threat. So it's very important to realize that less threat would lead to less avoidance. Try to speak positively. Try to, honor yourself, honor your person, know that you are able, know that you are capable, and trust yourself. So rewiring your mind for consistent action, or your brain. Your brain runs on dopamine, which is the motivational chemical. So you can use that to reward tiny wins. Tiny wins. Just reward your tiny wins. Don't try to write the whole essay to reward yourself. So, for example, you can say, finish 10 minutes of work, celebrate it maybe with standing up, scrolling your social media for 10 minutes, stretching out, checking it off, and just doing something that takes you out of that activity for a little bit. Immediate reward would build your motivation, and it would keep your momentum going, and you would want to keep doing that even more. Also, structure your digital environment. We all know how our digital tools distract us. Your phones, your iPads, your computers. Put distractions further away. For example, turn off your notifications, keep your phones in another room while you're doing your assignments, close unnecessary tabs so you don't get those alerts that come in and try to distract you from focusing. Think about the assignment. You can do it. Think about your topic if it's an essay, and think about your evidences. What information do you want to argue? Just focus on your work, and you will see that you will be able to keep this writing going. Make starting easier than escaping. Your environment where you're doing this work will also help beat your willpower. So focus on process, not the outcome. Focus on the process. Focus on the process of writing your essay and not the essay itself. And you would see that when you do that, you will be writing your essay as you're building your various paragraphs. Instead of saying something like, I need to have a perfect essay, I need to have an A in this essay. Think, for example, I'm going to write my essay for 20 minutes, or I'm going to write for 10 minutes, or even 15 minutes. Develop my paragraphs for 15 minutes, and that would help you to actually build your work. Don't focus on the grade that you want to have. If you do your best and you know you have given your all in working in an assignment and you earn a B, that should be rewarding enough. I'm not telling you to aim for a B, but if your best is a B, then tap yourself on the shoulder and know that you've done a great job. Outcome creates pressure, but process creates progress. So it's very important to regain long-term control. Procrastination weakens your identity, but actions actually helps rebuild it. So I encourage you to shift from the thought of, I need to finish this, to the thought of, I am becoming someone who actually does their job. I am becoming someone who shows up for class. I am becoming someone who at least starts doing the assignments bit by bit and does not wait for the last minute to rush. Identity-based habits are very important because they last longer and than those that are driven by urgent motivation. So time blocking with intention is very important. Time blocking is not about micromanaging every second. It's not. It is about protecting your mental energy. We talked about procrastination and as an emotional management issue and not really a time management issue. So I encourage you to block time for deep work, block time for rest, and block time for growth. These are very important. If you really schedule your mind that I have study time, I have rest time, and I have time to just, maybe do some growth work, listen to some podcasts, and listen or read some motivational books, then you are actually really protecting your mental energy. Treat those blocks like appointment with your future. You know you cannot be late for those appointments. And so you want to make sure that you show up, you do it, and then you get some rest. Celebrate immediately. I cannot stop telling you, many students, this is where we fail. Most of the time, we want to celebrate only our big wins, but we fail to recognize the small steps that took us to the big wins. Celebrate immediately. Don't wait for the huge milestones. Small wins rewire your brain, and progress acknowledged becomes progress repeated. So you want to make sure that you constantly celebrate your small wins so that you can rewire your brain to acknowledge those progresses that you've been making. So to conclude this reflection on procrastination, I want to remind you, my dear students, you are not lazy. You are human. Your brain tries to protect you from discomfort, but growth requires small discomfort. And when these small discomforts are done repeatedly, you would be growing. Procrastination loses power when your tasks shrink, when shame softens, and when actions begins. So you don't need to feel ready. Don't try to feel ready. You just need to start small and start again and again. Your future isn't decided by one perfect day. It is shaped by tiny, imperfect beginnings. I hope you enjoyed this reflection on procrastination. If you did, please don't forget to comment below and come back for more.